like backs her, and I know they let them out off leash, so I would just feel bad if half the time they get under the fence anyway, but still, maybe at least try to make it difficult for them.
Brad, are you guys ready? Because we're going to start in 1 minute. Okay. I have 1 minute still, right? What was it? All right, we'll wait till it finishes. Call the regular meeting of the Hazel Park Board of Education to order on this January 6, 2025 at 5 p.m. We are now going to conduct our acceptance and oath of office for our newly elected and re-elected Board of Education trustees. If I could get the three of you up. Anyone? Should you stand? Yes. Well, am I going to come up there? We're going to do it again before. Let's go to the front so we can get a good picture.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I know.
And do I need the mic? Sorry. Let's get you guys all here so it'll be a good picture, and I'll stand off to the side.
Hold on, I'm making this as hard as I possibly can.
I know. All right, if you could all raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education of the School District of the City of Hazel Park, according to the best of my ability. Congratulations, and I look forward to a great 4 years. So I believe it says, can I have a roll call, please, now? We're doing that. Let's roll call this meeting in order to open. Here.
Becker? Here.
Borges? Present.
Fox? Here.
Hinton?
Here.
Conley? Here. Here. Now I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I make a motion to approve the agenda with item C, 2025 business organization items for each of the 14 items to be individual action items for discussion.
What did you say again? I'm sorry.
To move item C, the 25 business organization items, each of the 14 items to be individual items as action items. And then to change item 13 to designation of general contractors, and then add what currently is 13, added as 14 to coincide with the...
So 13 you want as general?
As designation of general contractors, as it is in the package.
Okay.
And then 14 would be what 13 is currently, the position titles.
Got it. Is there any other changes you'd like to see?
That's it for right now.
Can we get a second? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. So we now have a special order of business to begin our meeting, starting with the election of officers. First up, president. Do we have a nomination for president?
I nominate Bev Hinton to be president.
Second. Do we have any other motions for president?
I'd like to nominate April Wheaton.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay. I don't remember how we did this last time. I think
to
we
accept the
need to, what'd you say?
They have to accept the nominations.
Right. So all in favor of Faith Pitton first, isn't that how we did it last time?
Well, first I accept the nomination.
Did you accept it? Sorry.
Yes.
Do you accept it?
Sure.
Yes. Okay, so we went around last time, didn't we? You did the motions for that. All right, I'm gonna let you take over there.
This is the vote for Hinton, nomination for Hinton as president. Eaton?
Do you need water?
No, I have coffee. It just, once I start, I don't stop for a minute. I'm so sorry. I don't know the process. Can I vote?
Oh,
So-
you can
You're
vote.
voting
Yeah,
for that.
okay, go ahead.
Can we have discussion first?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's have discussion. Go ahead.
I just would like the nomination, somebody to speak that I've been here for 10 years and worked in the district for 30, that I'm very, very qualified and maybe possibly overqualified to fill the position.
Any more discussions for Beth?
Are we discussing both?
Well, I believe that you do one motion then the other, if I remember correctly. Yeah. I just haven't had to do it for a while. Okay, let's do a vote on the first motion for Beth and for president.
Eaton?
No.
Becker?
No.
Fortress?
Yes.
Fox?
Yes.
Hinton?
Yes.
LaFramboise?
Yes.
Retief?
No.
Motion passes. We're going to switch over. You want to sit here, or do you want to just hand this to
You
you?
could just do it here.
Okay.
Congratulations, Beth.
Congratulations.
What's that?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're on down to the
Okay.
left for vice president.
Sorry, I'm catching up here.
Uh,
All right.
Thank you so much.
Next we have nomination for vice president.
I'd like to nominate Debbie LaFramboise as vice president.
I'd like to nominate April Beaton as vice president.
Do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Yes? Or was it April? April, do you accept the nomination?
Oh, yeah, but thank you so much. She said yes.
Yes?
Collecting my
Okay,
medicine.
so we will vote. Nominations are closed. No other nominations? So go ahead, Jamie. With, it's Debbie first,
Oh, sorry.
right?
Yes.
She was nominated first.
Thank you, Brad.
I think she was calling April's vote.
Yes.
Yes.
April, it's on you for Debbie.
I'm so sorry. I didn't even hear what we're voting on.
Debbie is vice president.
Oh,
You're going to say no?
No.
Becker?
No.
Fortress?
Yes.
Fox?
Yes.
Hinton?
Yes?
LaFramboise?
Yes.
Retief?
No.
Congratulations, Debbie.
Thank you. Do you want to take a 5-minute recess?
It's not gonna,
You're good?
once it stops, it'll stop.
Okay.
Once I get into a fit, it lasts a couple minutes, and then it'll be tomorrow before it happens again.
Okay, nominations are open for the office of treasurer.
I nominate Heidi Fortress for treasurer.
Any other nominations?
I will nominate April Beaton.
Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. Okay, we'll take vote.
Do I have to accept it? Yes, I accept.
Oh, yes, accepting. Sorry.
For treasurer, I'm sorry, but I
Treasurer.
will not. I don't think I'm capable of, I think Heidi's more qualified with an accounting background.
So I don't think we have to vote when there's
We do not.
one person. All right, congratulations, Heidi.
Thank you.
Floor is open for secretary, position of secretary.
I make a motion to appoint Darren Fox as secretary.
Do you accept?
I accept.
Are there any other nominations for
I would
secretary?
nominate Monica Ruti, please.
Was that Monica? You accept Monica? Okay, we can vote. Oh, are there any other nominations? Okay, closing nominations, we can vote.
This is the vote for Fox. Eden,
No.
Becker,
No.
Fortress,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Hinton,
Yes.
LaFramboise,
Yes.
Reti.
No.
All right, Mr. Fox is our new secretary, 4-3 vote. Next is Board of Education Committee appointments.
I make a motion to table this until to discuss at the committee of the whole meeting. There's a lot of committees on here that aren't listed, such as the Community Engagement, Special Education, Discipline Hearing Committee, Sex Education Committee, Youth Assistance Liaison, Coalition Liaison, and Enrollment Committee, and Wellness Committee. If we can get a brief description of each of those, and if anybody's interested, to reach out to the board president to discuss placement for those.
Can I clarify, because those are not board committees listed, those are superintendent committees. And some of them are not committees at all, like the coalition is not a committee, so will you be looking at changing policies?
But I thought we've always had a liaison for them.
No. You have a liaison for the library.
Well, I think the president should appoint anything that's a superintendent committee. The superintendent committee is the Ruth Geasley Fund and the honoring HP committee. Those are superintendent committees.
The engagement committee used to be a superintendent committee. I ran it, I pulled it off because it's being run by, it is being run by a community schools director. No, I am not part of that. I'm a part of it, but I'm not running.
Can we have a second so we can have the discussion?
I'll second.
Because I have something I want to.
I'll second.
Okay. We used to have the liaison committees on here, so I think that we should just table it because we used to have one for youth assistants, we had one for the museum. So when you're speaking liaison, we did have those positions, but those were outside committees, but we were those. So I just think we should table it and add possibly liaison positions.
Plus, the description would be nice, so you know what you're getting into when you even
So
if
list
it's
all the
consensus.
liaisons, could you please, that you want descriptions for? We'll have to. The museum is definitely, it's in the contract, and we haven't had one in the last couple of years. So museum.
So can we do that when we bring it back?
I thought you guys were asking me to bring, I was.
To have a
asking you
conversation.
motion to bring it.
So I have a conversation with it at the committee of the
Okay.
whole to see if anybody's interested in it at that point once we have the descriptions.
Yeah, you asked me to bring it, so.
So can we just vote on tabling it and then tell you afterwards? what
Absolutely, if you
committees?
guys will send me that list, that'll be great.
Will you send a list? I will.
Okay.
All right, then let's vote on tabling the committee appointments until the committee of the whole next week, including the description of what's the requirement, the involvement is. So all in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. I'm sorry, did that include the designation of the people to go to Oakland County?
Yes.
Okay, because it's a B also. All right, we're under business organizational action items. The first one is designation of district legal counsel representation. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the designation of legal counsel representatives to include also True and Law and Miller Johnson Law Firm.
Second?
I support.
Discussion?
Can we just have a brief description on what these law firms that are listed here do for us?
Sure, can you give them to me because unfortunately I can't log in. But
Just-
Clark Hill
is the-
handles, pretty much everything other than, when it comes to bond or bond payments, that is the other one that sits up and underneath that, Crowley, correct? And then, the other one is that ORS lawsuit.
McCraw? Okay, what about Miller Canfield?
That's the, Miller Canfield is the one that does the bond work, the finance work for us.
And I'm gonna mess up this last name. Marco Mullins?
They handle our workman's comp for us.
Okay, thank you.
So what about adding, what was it, Truen?
True Law Firm and Miller Johnson.
And you had a second.
Any other discussion on the attorneys? Or the additions of the two educational?
Will that discussion be listed in the minutes so we know who are associated with what?
If you guys would like that added, that's not normally what's added, but we certainly can, this board can make a decision.
It would help.
Maybe at committee at whole, what kind of minutes this board wants to have in the future.
I just want to see what they do because I won't remember what you said. I'm old, retired.
You're wise.
Always
That
older
makes
than
you-
me,
makes you
always older
wise.
than me.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, second one is establishment of bank accounts and authorized signers.
I make a motion to approve the establishment of bank accounts and authorized signers as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion was made to accept the bank account and the authorized signers. If there's any discussion, I have a question.
I have a question also.
Go ahead.
The MILFAF, a common credit, common debit, and sinking fund, what exactly is that?
My laugh is where all of our stuff is invested. Remember, we approved that this last year. We have money put into my lab.
So it's an investment account?
Yes.
Do you think we can get balances and reconciliations on all of those accounts as of 12/31/24? If not the January meeting, maybe the February
Maybe
meeting?
in February, if you don't mind. If we can get up earlier, we will try.
Thank you.
My question was about the signers. It has Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations, and we don't have that person currently. So who is signing, and do we add that later?
We don't truly sign at this point in time. The names will be put on a check, so we'll add Monica when she arrives to that.
Okay. So all in favor of accepting these authorized signers and bank accounts, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion carries. Persons authorized to make investments.
I make a motion to approve the persons authorized to make an investment as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion to accept the authorizers to make investments. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. People authorized to make wire transfers.
I make a motion to approve persons authorized to make wire transactions or wire transfers as presented.
Support.
Discussion? No discussion, hearing no discussion. All in favor of authorizing those people, well, the names aren't there, Superintendent of Schools, Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations, and Director of Business to make the wire transfers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. People authorized to enter into agreements with financial institutions or for commercial.
I make a motion to approve persons authorized to enter into an agreement with financial institutions for commercial card agreements, custodial agreements, and other financial transactions as presented.
Support.
Motion. Is there any discussion?
I was kind of curious on why this doesn't have to be, do they need board approval before they enter into these agreements?
Well, you authorize them to do that. I don't know that we've entered into any agreements without talking. They may have changed banks over the last 10 years from Harris to Huntington without approval. Yeah, they probably did.
I
I
just
think
need,
they were brought to finance committee. This is the standing format that has been in place well before I came.
yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing no further discussion, motion, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Are we on 6? People
Yeah,
authorized
yes.
to sign in the name of Hazel Park Schools.
I make a motion to approve persons authorized to sign in the name of Hazel Park Schools.
Support.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, like the master employee contract, it says board president, superintendent of schools. Is it and superintendent of schools, or is it or? I would like to change all A, B, and C to be and the board president for all of those. So do I amend my motion?
Who seconded it? They have to agree to amend your motion as well.
Monica.
I did. So you want the board president to be,
I would like it to say master employee contracts, board president, and superintendent of schools. And then B, individual employee contracts, superintendent of school, and board president. Third-party contracts, the superintendent of schools and assistant superintendent.
Did you say individual employee contracts as well?
Yes.
Do you know what that means? Every single staff member you hire that you're going to be reviewing and signing their contract, like teachers, everybody. The board president would be signing it. I understand the union contracts because that's kind of ceremonial because it's already been negotiated. But if you're saying individual, that you would be signing all teachers' contracts and administrator contracts.
I think I'm okay with that.
I'm going to say no. I think that's a lot.
Wouldn't the teachers' contracts not, is there a hierarchy? Would they fall under since they were already signed as a group?
No, there's individual contracts that are done for administrators. We bring them here, you guys approve them, then we sign them and send them to the staff members.
So I would think that at least anybody that isn't in a union. So like the administrators,
I would say and the board can make that decision with this group. Historically, your one employee is me. The rest of them, I sign for. After you've approved them, we bring them to you to approve that. We put them out, you approve positions and salaries. We extend that to the individual that we hire, and then we bring them to you for approval. But it's not historical. I don't believe in my 26 years I've ever had a board sign an individual contract because the only person who you really oversee is me.
If I may, can't we just include, like the individual employee contracts, couldn't we include after approval of the board, then the superintendent signs? That would eliminate, because, I mean, we're going to approve it anyways.
Well, here's
We
the
don't
question.
approve individual.
Here's the impact of what you're saying. The impact of what you're saying is that no teacher would start their job until you've signed that contract.
Or approved
Meaning
it.
that historically, when a teacher is hired, they start the job, and then a contract is done for them, an individual contract. If you're awaiting for your signature, what you're potentially doing is setting a whole month before a person can start the position, as well as an administrator. Or you would have to have special, and I can tell you, we are hiring individuals on a weekly basis. That, again, I would say, you may want to consider and table that for some further conversations because you are now directing every employee, certified employee, versus just the superintendent. You are stepping way into the dance floor.
Well, that's what I meant by.
Well, you approve staffing every year.
Right, so.
You've approved positions.
So as long as we approve the staff,
If-
we can
right.
word that in there, and then you sign the contract, we're good. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, because what
That's
I heard
redundant,
from you
though.
before, I just want to clarify is
Yeah,
that.
what they're saying is to have the president sign too. What I'm saying is
Right.
that as long as it's approved by the board,
The positions are approved yearly by the board.
yes.
There is no position that's hired without approval by the board. The person is approved by
Oh, I
myself
see what
and
you're
everyone
saying.
else. There's a
Okay.
difference, right?
Okay,
So
so when you come to
approve,
us.
the board approves the allocation of the position. The administration hires the people. Your one contract is mine.
Are the contracts signed previous to the board approval?
Because you approve positions every year, right? So, for example, in April, you approve 6 administrators, a central office person, and whatever. If you don't approve those, we don't have them. So that's kind of that budget that's worked in then. Then after we hire, we bring those to you and it's really a blessing of those positions. The opposite of what you're saying is that everybody would have to come to you before they could begin working, which would be a serious stop of process in your school district.
And being the new guy, I've been reading a lot of the bylaws and everything, and I think it spells out specifically, and it might not be the bylaws, but somewhere it says that we, as a board, hire the superintendent, and we trust the superintendent for the hiring. So we may have to change our bylaws or whatever if we were to go that route also.
And that is the best practices of board practice as well. You will get that in your additional 101, and it's in your book. Your one person is me. You approve whether or not we can have those positions, and then we hire.
I just agree. I think that individual employee contracts isn't.
I'm
First,
just-
I think it's an insurmountable amount of work.
Then
Every
what-
individual person, but I can see the benefit of adding the and to A.
Then
To
why,
the union ones?
Yeah, the master employee contracts,
Yeah,
but
I mean-
individual seems
There's
just
been times when the president has signed the
far
union
too
ones.
deep into the woods. Yeah.
then why does the individual employee contracts not include the HR director as the third-party contractors and subcontractors?
The only person that's, well, first of all, probably originally was because the HR director was not in place. There was not one in this district.
We've always had an HR director.
Excuse me?
I thought we've always had one.
No, we have not. I did HR all the way up until a few years ago. I did it on top of that. But the only person that signs for the district is myself and the assistant superintendent of business and operations. And then for special ed, Dr. Papazian, because there's so many legal pieces in and out for special ed.
Roundabout way, the HR director was the assistant superintendent of schools back then.
What about Nick?
That was still after her time, because she was hired in 2015. We didn't get an HR director until like 16.
This board asked for an HR director.
Yeah.
Not this one, but a previous board asked.
And before that, it was Mr. Meisinger who did all the hiring and interviews and stuff like that.
It's a little different than it was even 10 years ago with the amount of people that come in and out. But
So do you want to amend your motion?
well, she already said no.
She already said no.
But to a new amendment to only include some of those letters, A, B, and C, not all of those letters.
I think the employee master contract should be and.
So amend the motion to make A, add the word and to A.
Yeah, I think when you're signing contracts, it's always good to have two people sign them.
That certainly is a piece of the board. Again, that is not something that happens in schools. It's really perfunctory.
So I guess that we vote on the original motion.
Or we table it.
We would have to motion to table it.
Right, she's already motioned to vote it. She has to agree to withdraw to table it. Really, might want to just move the motion, see if it fails. If it fails, then you can bring it
Then
back
table
in.
it, motion, vote and then table it after. The-
Well, I can amend,
after
I
fails.
amend my motion to include the word "and" on A, C, and D.
What's C and D?
Third-party contractors and contractors and administrators.
So do you want the board to sign?
No, it says superintendent of schools and assistant superintendent of business operations. What
So she
are
wants
the third
superintendent
party?
and assistant superintendent for C, superintendent and
Is there one
superintendent.
contract, right? For just,
So normally what happens now in signing of contracts is that now DocuSign comes forth and they will send it to you to sign through that piece. So for example, third party, like a nursing agreement. Myself or Jason would sign a nursing agreement after we reviewed. If you were doing that, I would, I don't know that I would encourage two pieces. If that's what you want to do, again, I would encourage just one on those contracts. And then they usually come to you as well.
So I don't know where we're at on the motion. Are we on the original motion?
no, I made an amendment to include the word "and" on the master contracts. I'll remove the C and D. That's all I'm doing. So, yes,
So just A.
just A.
I will support.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion is to add the word "and" to A, and the others remain the same.
Oh, there's a whole list.
Is that right? Are you good, Heidi?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, all in favor of adding the word "and" to A and leaving the remainder the same, say aye. Any opposed?
Madam President, may I roll
Motion
call?
carried.
What I might suggest is if the feeling is that you want to see the contracts minus all the employee contracts, that we do like we're doing with the grants, where they're uploaded in the system and or we bring them to the committee of the whole so you can see what's.
Whenever I try to go into them, it says that I need authorization.
To the grants? Underneath under the,
Yeah.
In the
When I
drive.
try to go
In the
into it,
drive?
it says yes,
I see.
need authorization.
I authorized everyone but you. But can you
I've
show me
done
what
it
you
before, but I noticed that I was
did
using
too.
my
We'll take a
email
look.
when I signed in, so I had to switch to my school.
Yeah, you got it's got to be in your school to get into the drive.
That's all I go into.
Okay, well, let's take a look at it.
All
You
right.
should be able to get into it. Plus, we bring them to every board meeting, every committee of the whole now. And we can do that with any contracts as well. It's easy when they're signed. I can forward it to Jamie and we can put them on for the committee of the whole. So if you have questions, you can ask about them.
Okay, the next one is newspaper for official publications.
I make a motion to approve the use of CNG newspaper and Oakland Press for our official publications.
Support.
Any discussion on the newspapers, C&G News and Oakland Press?
Mhm.
No discussion? Okay, all in favor of those being our two newspapers for advertisement, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, thank you. Motion carries. Authorize summer and winter tax collections for each municipality.
I authorize the approval of summer and winter tax collections for each municipality.
Support.
Any discussion?
When does this usually happen? Because Jason used to present to us and ask the board to approve him to.
Oh, that's that's approving the amount of taxes that you're going for. And that happens in June, I believe, on our calendar.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
To authorize a summer and winter tax collection, I take it that's Hazel Park and Ferndale.
Yes.
The municipality, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Designation of person responsible for implementing public notice requirement of the Open Meetings Act.
I make a motion to approve the designation of the person responsible for implementing the public notice requirements of the Open Meeting Act.
Support.
And who is that?
It is the executive assistant to the superintendent.
That would be Jamie Bucco. So all in favor of Jamie doing that responsibility, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Motion carries. Designation of property liability and workers' compensation insurance carriers.
You're contagious. I make a motion to designate the property liability and workers' compensation carriers as presented.
Any discussion on the insurance carriers? It's Setsag, who's been forever. Not hearing none? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Designation of auditors.
I make a motion to approve the authorization of UHY LLP as our designated auditors.
Any discussion on who our new auditors are?
No, thank you. I would encourage us to go with them another year. They're doing a pretty deep dive right now, and should make it easier for this upcoming year. And then I would recommend that we go out for bid and make a determination of what works best for the board.
Anybody else? Okay, all in favor of keeping UHY for the current year and following year, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Designation of architect record.
That, the motion wasn't for the following year, it was just for the current year.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Sorry.
So.
I would like to see the audit before we make that decision.
I'm sorry, because you didn't say the following year.
I did not. So is it, just what happens? Do we need to redo it?
I think so.
Well, this
So-
year is this year. I hate to tell you, this year is this summer. That's the auditor. So you guys have approved the audit for this upcoming summer. You just did and voted on this group here. I believe you certainly, if you don't like the audit, the board could use to search another audit firm after the point in time and put it out for bid. But for right now, that makes the auditor that you just voted and approved the auditor for this year, which is the 24-25 school year, which is this year. You've already approved the 23-24. You certainly can bring that back at another time if you find the audit not to be favorable of the board.
Okay.
So we're good?
Yep.
So we just approved the 24-25 school year.
Yes.
You already approved it, yeah.
Now, this is where designation of architect of record, but there was one, wasn't there one missing? Is that the next one?
No,
Designation of general contractor was number 13.
No, we're number 12. We kept as architect of record,
Right.
and we have 3 different ones working on projects.
We have them currently working on projects?
We do,
All 3 of them?
yes.
Okay.
Is there a motion to accept?
I make a motion to approve the TMP Architects Partners in Architect and King Scott as our designated architects on record.
Okay, motion's made to accept the designation of architect of record. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have a quick question, sorry. Not opposed, but, so is everything we're approving for the 24-25 school year? Okay.
Well, really, 24-25, the beginning of 25-26. Right, because it's you already did
Until the
24,
next
now it's
organization.
25 to.
So this
it's
goes
for
by the
2025.
calendar year as opposed to
Because
the
you
school
approve
year.
it every year in January.
Gotcha.
But truly, at any point in time, the Board of Education could say, hey, as projects roll off, we don't want to work with Amy Kirby Architectural Firm anymore. We would like to work with April's Architectural Firm. You could, and you also would
recommend
propose,
it.
you could ask for RFPs if you wanted to get to that point for them to narrow
Greatly
that down.
underqualified.
And you could change that at any time, right? You're
Okay.
just designating these so that people.
So I'm designating these people for actually, what year are
12
we at?
months.
2025. I'm only designating them for 2025.
Right, because you're going to do it again next January.
Right.
Every
I'm just-
January.
I was
you
just
do it
wondering the
again.
timeline. Okay. Sorry, we need to vote.
Yes.
I think you voted.
Did it carry?
Are we good?
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah,
we
you had
voted.
the question
I
afterwards.
thought we voted.
Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
to-
Yes.
Okay. Designation of general contractor of record.
I make
That's
motion-
construction.
I make a motion to designate Clark Construction as a general contractor of record.
Any discussion? Architect of record, designate, no, contractor, general contractor, I'm one above.
You're good.
Okay? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We have position titles, authorized to use district credit and debit cards.
I make a motion to approve the titles authorized to use district credit cards as presented with removal of other than designated by the superintendent.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion in removing other than as designated by the superintendent?
May I
Yes.
discuss? That would remove like holiday baskets or other things that we utilize that, thus making them to use check request, which is fine if you so choose to do that.
Well, I mean, if you come to us and come to the board and say, can we authorize this credit card? Then yeah, but I just think for you to authorize a credit card without board approval, and then I just don't.
How many others are there besides holiday baskets?
I believe it's just holiday baskets now. Junior Vikings is at the city. That's it. I don't think you have any other ones.
And the
you see
holiday
credit cards.
baskets is only used for 2 months.
It's turned off after and then
Right.
turned back on again so that they can purchase the items.
Okay, so then we can include I make a motion to amend mine to remove the other than designated by the superintendent and to include the use of holiday baskets for the month of October, November, and December.
The only thing I'm going to say about that is because I do see what Darcy does, and sometimes she like finds a great deal and she like grabs it because we need so much stuff for holiday baskets. So there's times in like March she's like, oh my gosh, this is $4, and she grabs it.
But the credit card's already shut off.
But it's easy to just turn it right back on and then turn it off again.
So
That's really at the leisure of the board. May I make a friendly amendment in the discussion?
Sure.
That perhaps you could say, if you're worried about them being approved without you, you could say, or others designated by the superintendent after approval of the board. So that you come to the committee of the whole and say, hey, the bowling team wants their own credit card. They've not asked for their own credit card. Then that would be done at the committee of the whole, and you guys would say, yeah, I agree with that.
So if we can vote right now, I suppose, or at the committee of the whole to approve the holiday baskets and then not worry about it and just make our motion for after board approval.
So
Is
the
what you're
holiday
saying.
baskets ones are already there, but
Right.
instead of eliminating it during that time, we turn it off unless they need it. We only turn it on if they need it. And again, that's what you need to trust your business office to do to facilitate effective purchasing of items. And you do not want to get into approving every single thing that's happening inside that business office. Trust me, I've been doing it for several months, and it takes a tremendous amount of time for me. That would be a lot for you.
I would agree with Ms. Reti. I was on the holiday basket committee, and a lot of times, like, she might find some deals tomorrow. And so she'll be rushing up here to get the credit card, or Mr. Nagy will find deals for hats, $2 a piece because they're, it's the end of the season. So I think that we should authorize a credit card for the holiday baskets because we still are able to see the invoices or the credit card statement.
We
just
don't
for that
see
one.
the individual bills.
You've asked to get all the credit cards, and so you would see holiday baskets and the pieces that are on that credit card. You asked at the last meeting.
Yeah, I think
to
we'll
get them
have to
and we
start
sent them
seeing
to
that.
you.
If we see that, then I think we'll be okay for the holiday baskets.
Then I amend my motion to include holiday baskets, credit card with still the removal of the other as designated by the superintendent.
Do you want to remove that, or do what?
I want to remove it. I mean, if there needs to be another credit card assigned, other than the people that are here, we can get board approval.
Right, but that's what she said, if we didn't remove it and put with board approval, that's covering yours too.
That's also covering me.
So it would stay there just with board approval.
Yeah,
Add it on to it.
after the approval of the board. Is that what you're saying, that?
Yeah.
That
I don't understand the difference.
After we approve it, you,
Why
And the
not
committee of
just
the whole- because
remove
then
it?
we're acknowledging that we're doing other ones, and that the direction of this group is to bring it to the board before you add another one.
Because then nobody could add them if you don't leave some. Who could add them besides the superintendent?
Okay. For the third time, I amend my motion to approve the superintendent, administrator, principal, supervisor, coordinator, assistant superintendent, building and administration secretaries, management, maintenance staff, business office staff, holiday baskets, and anybody other than that needs approval by the board.
Second.
did everybody get that? I think that's a good motion. So all in favor of accepting Heidi's amendment to the credit card statement or issuance, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Our energy bond presentation.
Madam President, may I do an introduction?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So I believe that three of you that were able to go to conferences has already met these individuals. And this is a group that trained that Jason was working with before. And we're bringing this back out to be presented to you as a board for understanding. We're not really asking you to do anything else tonight. We really want to whet your appetite to kind of understand. This was one of the ways that if the bond had passed that we thought we would be reducing some of the bond is through an energy bond in the midst of that. And so we want to do this, and then we'll come back and talk with you after this with some more information. So without further ado, I'm going to let you guys take it away.
So my name is Gwen Pettit. I am a former educator myself. I specialize in schools and high schools. That was my first career. My second career, former high school coach myself, and hockey coach, basketball coach for high school. I'm used to being a teacher, so I'm just used to yelling. What Dean and I do across the state is we work with both K-12 and higher ed finding funding. So we find funds for schools, whether you pass the bond, fail the bond, never have enough money. So that is where we come into play. And I'll let him introduce himself.
So my name is Dean Weber, and I've been with Train for 22 years, so right after college. Train hired me, and I started as a service technician, then moved into project management roles of running large projects, and then been doing account management and sales for the last 12 years. So appreciate the time.
And we met some of you, like she mentioned, at the conference.
And she's talking, I'm going to hand out some information. Our cards are in here too.
So many of you probably know Train, the big red ball. You might have it at home. As the HVAC, you might have our air conditioning or a furnace at home. But what Dean and I do for school districts besides the finance piece and finding money is we have Train itself is an energy company. So we have a solar division, a lighting division, an electrification division. So that's where we come into play. So essentially, if you kind of attribute this to what you have at home, is we go into, if you, like your home, if you put a new roof on your house or new windows, you save money. So if you have to spend a little money to save money. And so as we go through the presentation, I'm not going to read every parts and piece, but essentially that's what we do when we look at the holistic view of a school district. So what we're going to explain to you is the legislation behind this, and then the finance piece, as well as you mentioned Troon Law, so our partnership as well with Troon, and then your financial advisor and your construction manager that you mentioned today, and some of your architects that as well that we work with that you mentioned today. So The legislation behind this is called Energy Savings Performance Contracts. So essentially what that is leveraging your existing energy and operational spending for capital improvements. So if you think about some of the wasteful things that you're doing, and if you think about at home. So at home, if you have bad windows, you see that money kind of floating out the window, you know, in your bad windows or your roof. You might need a new roof. Things aren't caulked. The same thing happens in your building here. What you're used to, or what you've done in the past, is voted bonds. We call these non-voted bonds, and this slide comes from your financial advisor. These are called non-voted bonds. That's their terminology. They're not voted on by the community. They're voted on by the board. So some of you may have sat through our presentation at your board conference in the past. These projects run very quickly, meaning typically when we build projects or when they're built by a company like ours, they typically are built within a 2 to 6 month period. The boots hit the ground in installation within 30 to 60 days of the process of development. They can be built on reallocating the funds that we find that you're wasting. So for instance, when we say energy, if you're paying money to the utility companies that you're wasting, that money that's floating out, we're taking that money and we're reallocating and leveraging that money for those upgrades. You can use bond funds, you can use sinking funds, as well as just rebates. That's all tied into that. So if you take a look at the blue and the yellow boxes up there, depending on where you fall in your SEV, depends on how when we work with your financial advisor, depends on what kind of energy bond, and I say that in quotations, which kind of energy bond we leverage. Now these bonds, when we call them bonds, and I keep using that term lightly because they're really like an energy loan, they're guaranteed. And those energy loans that are guaranteed means that a company like Train, which is an ESCO, and we'll get into that in a second, guarantees that when we say you're going to save that money that's floating out, let's say $100,000, we say, okay, every year you're wasting $100,000. We guarantee you're going to save that $100,000 over a 20-year period, year after year. If you don't save that money, we have to pay you that money, the difference of that money. So to have a guaranteed energy savings performance contract, you have to have the financial backing to do that type of project. And so when we build these projects, we show you in that cash flow after we do the holistic view and do the holistic deep dive into these projects. Up here on the screen, you see this, my pointer's not working here, but you see that legislation down there, the MCL 380.127. That's the legislation that dictates in Michigan what allows us and what dictates how we build these projects and what you have to do to be able to be a contractor to do these types of design build projects. Up here on the right, where it says the U.S. Department of Energy, in 2022, the Department of Energy, essentially, if you've heard about the Inflation Reduction Act and all the money that the federal government has pushed down since 22, what they've said is they built a campaign saying, hey, all this money that we're giving you, we want you to do and use this money in this type of energy contracting performance contract fashion. We want you to have this guarantee and have this financial backing with these companies because we want you to use it smart and essentially have this financial backing behind these projects. So again, not everybody can do these types of projects. You have to be an energy services company. And up on the screen right now, you can see where it says NAESCO.com. That website there, you have to have a special accreditation to be an energy services company. Train has been an ESCO since 1991, and there is other companies that do this for a living that have this financial accreditation. But every 3 years, we have to go and jump through our hoops and say, okay, do we have any lawsuits? What do we bring to the table? Do we just do a solar project, or can we do a holistic view? So in Michigan alone, for us, we have a lot of, and we've shared with some of you that have been to the conferences, you've probably seen our banners, but we have to be able to bring other things to the table. Do we do wastewater treatment if we're municipalities? Do we do lighting, solar, building controls, equipment, all different types of different projects within a whole project? And then can we back it financially and guarantee it and not have lawsuits? That's the big thing. So how does it work? So leveraging energy and operational savings to upgrade your infrastructure. So essentially, this is an example. Right now, you're paying your DTE consumers, your utility companies, you're paying them $250. This is an example. $250 or $250,000 a month. Okay? What we do is we take that $250,000 and we can decrease what you're paying them, but we can leverage that money per legislation to upgrade your buildings through that energy loan bond. We call it a bond. That's what legislation calls it. That energy loan. But we're also guaranteeing that you're going to save that money by doing those upgrades. So we stand behind it. Now, DTE consumers is still going to get their piece because they still want their piece, but you're just paying them a lot less, and we leverage that. What we don't take into consideration is your maintenance people, because you still need them. But now they're not running around always putting out fires. We know predictively what their job is going to be. Your doors, now a lot of our projects start with heat because we're in Michigan. In Florida, we start with cooling. But here in Michigan, we start with heat. And we're able to leverage those wasteful dollars into building up upgrades. So, for instance, around here, Crestwood Schools, we did a lot of boilers, we did lighting, we did rooftop units, we did controls, water conservation, things like that. Ypsilanti Schools was our first job that we did years ago. Every year after year, they have a sinking fund as well, where we just keep leveraging more and more savings with their sinking fund money. And I think we're on year 5 that they, on top of their energy loan that they did. And we have lots of examples that we can go through there. Now, when you're done paying for the project, the initial project, you still DTE consumers, whoever it is, they still have their maintenance, they still get their piece of the pie, but now you have more savings to pay for whatever it may be, your secure entryways or your programs that you want to add, whatever it may be, things like that. But now you're more energy efficient. And one thing I will add is these programs typically when we build them out with your financial advisor, and I think you mentioned PFM is who it was. So we work with them to build these out. We typically look at a long-term 20-year payback, sometimes 21. So when we build these out, we look that long-term as far as being that far out for energy efficiency. And the guarantee that we have goes for 20 years as well. You can see up here, I have a quote up here from Dr. John Van Wagner from Traverse City. I actually did my first project with him in Alpena, and we just signed a $31.5 million project with him just before Christmas on the second school district that he's with his bond project as well. So we've worked with him on 2 different districts. So there's another reference that you can tap into. So here's some things. I've kind of mentioned some different things that we look through, and I'm not going to kind of go through everything, but so when you modernize your HVAC equipment, so if you think about your house, so if you have a furnace, if you get a new furnace, it's more efficient. Here in school districts, we know boilers is a big thing. So if you have old boilers, they're really, they're not running very efficient. Rooftop units, VFDs, things like that. Water conservation, so low flow toilets. When you buy your own new faucets and things like that at home, they're going to be low flow. And when we have city water here, typically you're paying a lot, and I know that because I'm from the area. Renewable energy, so Inflation Reduction Act, I kind of touched on that, and we can talk a little bit more about that. So as I mentioned, if solar is a thing that we need to evaluate, we can do that, but depending on what area we're looking at, charging stations, and there's more to that depending on the area we're at in the state, much less the country. Building envelope would be roofs, windows, insulation, caulking, maintenance programs. So our goal isn't necessarily for us to hold the keys to your car. We want to train you so that your maintenance crew can take care of your buildings. So what do we need to do to make you more self-sufficient? What do we have to do to make you more reliable or your people more reliable and more confident in taking care of the buildings? Energy management system, that's just part of your HVAC program. So, what kind of programming can we put in place? Fuel conversions and rate optimization. And just real quick, a lot of you at home, when you get your utility bills, and hopefully nobody works for DTE or consumers here, but you get your bill and you just pay it. Well, what we find majority of the time is most school districts are on the wrong rate, or we can decrease the meters. But we find a lot of money just by looking, are you paying for sewer costs when you're irrigating, you shouldn't be paying for sewer costs. So we found some big savings just in that kind of stuff. But we're trained to do that. LED lighting is that kind of talks to itself. Everybody kind of has no choice but to do that now, but putting LED lighting. Intelligent services, that's kind of like the AI, right? So what can we do so that, you can be more predictive in your buildings? And then again, ongoing staff development, recycling, what can we do with your staff, your teaching staff, to kind of help them move along and be more self-sufficient and more development. So this is an example of the cash flow positive. So when we build these projects, we kind of I didn't touch on this really. You can build these projects where we're just reallocating money. You don't have to add any money. We just build it to the savings that we find. So meaning no more money comes out of your pocket. We just find the money that we can save and we reallocate it to as big of the project as we can find. So if you're wasting, let's say, up to, where we can leverage a $5 million project, we back into that $5 million project. Now, what we find is most school districts, need more than $5 million, so we can leverage a little bit more. Maybe you have sinking fund, maybe you have general fund. In the past, there's been so much ESSER funds. But we back into those numbers and say, okay, what can we do? And for every dollar that you use, we typically get $4 to $8 out of that dollar because we're doing it all up front. So here in year one, this is an example of Holt Public Schools. You can see this is Baker Tilly. It's another financial advisor, PFM's competitor. But in year one, that's a construction year because boots hit the ground. So we start seeing a savings right off the bat. But right off the bat, when we do right off the bat, we see $125,000 in our construction year as we're installing. And the difference there is we see $28,000 on the right side, $28,000 cash flow positive. And that just compounds. Year two, when we're done with the project, and now we're in measure and verification stage, you can see we're guaranteeing $250,000 a year, and we're leveraging that. So in year two, the savings is $250,000, the principal is $135,000, the interest is $97,000, the total is $232,000, the difference is $18,000 positive. So we build these very conservatively so that at the end of every year, most school districts is like, okay, take me to the 50-cent cash positive because we need so much, and that's how we build them. All districts that we work with always save more than that, but we want to be very conservative because we don't want to pay you. We don't want lawsuits. So typically we build them to get as much out of the cash flow as we can. We don't want to be revenue for the district.
Savings was 3.6. They put $316,000 in their pocket. They also got all this new stuff, new boilers, new controls, maybe adding air conditioning. So there's some other things that we can look at too.
So operation, and just a more clarification, would be T&M. So that's third-party calls. So, how many times do you have to call somebody, which might entail, closing down the school because you don't have heat. So some of the benefits of the guaranteed projects is very collaborative. So we work with you to drive, what is the scope that you need to get done. You don't have to come out of pocket. We can just reallocate. It's guaranteed. It's single source accountability and warranty. So everything. So it's, if you work through us, it's our two faces that you see. It addresses utility and wasteful spending for the long term. Modernizes equipment. It addresses the deferred maintenance. That's a huge one. It avoids labor and material cost escalation, which is kind of different from when you do a voted bond, because in a non-voted bond, we order everything in year one. Within 6 weeks, 8 weeks, we have ordered everything for that project. In the voted bond side, when you do that, you're voting for every summer, or you're ordering for every summer, right? So you're ordering for this 3 schools, and then the next summer you're ordering for this 3 schools, and however you have it staged. What we do is we avoid all that. We order everything up front. So for instance, we're doing that Traverse City job, and we have 12 boiler plants in that project and 17 schools of lights, and a whole slew of other things. We are ordering everything up front so that we don't hit all that escalation. And we have all that boiler plants going in majority is going in one summer, and I think we're doing 3 schools in the next summer. But it's so you don't see that escalation, which in a bond project, that would have taken multiple summers of work. So economies of scale and bundle solution, that kind of goes in hand with that. Enhanced learning environment, obviously, we take into consideration not only lights. In Monroe ISD, we're working in the autistic side of autistic program in the school district. So we take into all the acoustics and the lighting and the sound and the smell and all that. Another project that is going to be starting right at the same time as Traverse City. So the whole environment, what does that look like? STEM and skilled trade program. So Train started as an HVAC program. So we are very much vested in apprenticeships and skilled trades. So we have partnerships. And that's something, as a former teacher, something that I also, that's a piece of 20% of our job is to also incentivize to get school districts to work. We have programs, and there's a little piece of that in here, but that's a whole nother presentation that we dive into. And then, of course, we are a service company and we are local. So partner for life. I mean, that's what you want is, how do we stay a partner, and what else can we do for you and help you through this process? So these are some of the steps. The introduction, so performance contracting legislation, what allows you to do this type of work. Utility bill analysis. So one thing I didn't mention is that this is no cost. So we don't charge you. We haven't made you sign anything. This is a free process. So one of the things that we do is follow the legislation. Some of the companies out there do not. We haven't asked the district to not even sign a piece of paper. So we do this utility bill analysis that says, what are you paying per square foot for the district? And then we do this preliminary study. We go back, we present to the board, because that's a milestone, just so you understand and can ask questions, because this isn't your standard type of project that you're used to. And then from there, we do a detailed energy study. And what that means is boots on the ground. We bring a whole lot of engineers, and we start crawling and climbing ladders and looking, okay, what is going to save more money? Because we have our initial dollar amount. Now, where else can we find money on top of that initial dollar amount? And so that's through a lot of investigation. And then we start collaborating on the scope of work. What comes first? And then, of course, if updating the board, where are we at? Do you understand the process? Per legislation, we have to release an RFP. That's an energy services company RFP. We would have to bid on the RFP. There is a bond resolution, just like you would if you had, that we would work with Troon and PFM, just like you would if you had a voted bond. The difference is the board would vote on it. You would know the project. You would know the dollar amount. The contract would be executed with Troon, as I mentioned. then you would sell the bond. Project execution would be within the day that the bond sells is the day the project starts. And then off we go. So that's the process.
There isn't any commitment to get to the contract execution. So at the bond resolution, all that, there is no commitment till the contract is released. In the beginning of the presentation, we talked about a non-voted bond. Well, that non-voted means it's just the school board votes on this bond or loan. So just to clarify that.
So this is just the educational return on your investment, a little bit more. So again, we have a STEM energy educational that we have retired educators on staff that once we get going, we have STEM, we find out where you're at, and our STEM teachers will work with your curriculum directors to see, where are you at, where can we supplement, what programs do you have, and we kind of, do you want to work with us? You don't have to, but if there's something we can integrate, we do a lot of national competitions, things like that. And then, of course, we have the virtual learning living lab. We have in your packet, you'll see some of the different educational stuff that I put in there. There's a lot of educational stuff. We have an analytics certification. We have an HVAC residential. We have a commercial. There's a lot of different educational stuff. And then, of course, the skilled trade partnership that we have. And if you end up coming to CTE conference in January, at the end of this month, we'll be presenting there as well. We present every year there on our with different school districts around the state and with NC3. But again, that's a whole nother hour-long presentation. Here is just some of our things that we do. This is Holt Public Schools. They were one of our Department of Energy winners, as well as they've gotten over $1 million in rebates for our project that we've done. Morenci Public Schools also was a Department of Energy winner one year. Holt got to go to New Orleans. That was a much more fun trip than Chicago, but Chicago was fun too. So we like to put out, I know you talked about the media. If you look up Holt or Traverse City Public Schools, you'll find a lot on a project that is going to hit the ground here on Traverse City, Holt, Morenci, Trenton. Any of those school districts and energy projects, you'll find Crestwood. Crestwood has a national magazine that has a lot of our projects in it. Here's some of the projects that we've done. This is just a small sampling over the last 5 years, literally. But Alpena, like I mentioned, Dr. Van Wagner, that was a project we did there, and then he moved to Traverse City. We did 8 boiler plants in one summer. Dearborn Public Schools, they just got a grant. They were just awarded, so we're doing another phases and stuff there with them. Ypsilanti Public Schools, again, I'll probably retire with that job because they just keep change ordering that job with the money that they get. Crestwood, again, boilers, it's a lot of recurring things. We have graduated to bathrooms in our last 3 projects. So we do energy stuff, but we also have graduated to like sewer pipes and bathrooms and things like that. Just, what does the district need, and we'll do it. We just haven't done any football fields yet. Trenton Public Schools, we're just finishing up. Again, one of the things we found in Trenton Public Schools is we evaluated their service contract that they had and found that they were overspending with their contractor. And they don't have to work with us. We just told them, you need to really negotiate this with your contractor. Same thing with your utility bill provider. They were using MESIC. Essexville was using MESIC. And we said, no, you need to go back and negotiate. And so we helped them do that as well. So this Inflation Reduction Act, we're very much on, I don't know if you're well aware of the money that came down from the federal government, but this is just a quick, I'm not going to go through this. Essentially, if you can produce energy or store energy, we look at that, can we find you more money? Even though you don't pay taxes, if there's some way that we can get you some of that federal tax money, we will look at that and bring it to the table for you, as well as the Renew America grant that's out there from the federal government too. So that's our job to keep up on that state grants and federal grants. And that is pretty much it. I don't know, try to keep it quick.
Questions?
My question is, will you be including all of our schools?
Yes.
What about Roosevelt, Longfellow, and the Erickson Library that we have?
Erickson Library is not ours really anymore. It's rented out by the city for now.
Okay, well, I know that, but I was just thinking, because that boiler there is terrible. It's very old.
So we will include anything you own that you pay for.
We own it. I mean, I don't know.
It's certainly something we can evaluate, and we can include it or not if it makes sense. Melvindale schools, there was a building that they closed, so we didn't evaluate it. We get towards the end of the job, they said we need to open up the school, so we went to evaluate it. So we're open and we'll look at anything.
Sometimes we get to the point where they're like, we don't know if we're going to close the school. We said, let's evaluate it anyway, and maybe we can help you make that. You know, we're working in another district right now that says, we don't know if we're going to close this or not, but let us know what we're paying so that can help make the decision.
Right. Yeah.
So we were in Alpena that were debating whether they're going to sell the transportation building. So we had it in the contract, and then what happened was they still were unsure. And we said, well, let's hit that building last. And then we ended up taking it out of the contract and just reallocating that money somewhere else. So we're very flexible in that respect, but we wanted to have all the information up front so that it's part of it, so we don't have to, nothing's left out, and then the kids need it. So you want to leverage everything up front for that loan, because every dollar that we find helps support something else. So every like lighting, one of the issues that we find in a lot of school districts is they self-installed lighting. Well, then you don't get to leverage that lighting for boilers. When you're doing one-offs, you want to build it as a project because there's no financial, Jason's not here. So we always tease the business managers. So when you one-off, like lighting, well, now you can't leverage lighting for the big projects because that money just goes back in the general fund. And now the boiler isn't being done.
The boiler you're talking about, if we replace that, it's still probably past 20-year payback. So it's nice to have those 5-year paybacks, average everything out.
My last question is, we had a energy bond at one time where they went through the district. Do you know anything about that? Have you been informed that we did have a bond? And my question is it paid off? Is that bond paid off? Because you mentioned 20 years it takes to pay it off, and I don't remember when we had that bond.
I don't think we're aware, but not every energy bond is 20 years. We've done
Okay.
a 12-year before,
Okay.
14.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
good. I was just curious.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
if
don't know
Dr.
about
Krupe
that.
knows.
I don't think there was anything out
'Cause
there.
we had our
I haven't heard
lights.
anything about it.
Yeah, if these lights are,
Right.
yeah, it would
I'm
have
just
been these
curious,
lights.
that's all. It's not a
Yeah.
big deal, but.
These are not new lights, so these would have been, it would have been prior to this. Yeah, so I can't imagine that it's got to be paid off by now.
I would think so too.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
Anybody else?
So you get no money unless we contract you?
Correct. This is why we like to do the milestones. We have these milestones to make sure, like, we want to come and make sure, like, you understand it, right? So,
And we would only bond out or loan or whatever terminology you want to use, the amount of savings. So let's say we can save $300,000 a month or whatever that. So we would not borrow more than 300,000 times 20.
yeah, once we build out the project, we'll see what it backs into. So that would be the number. You would see what that project is. So we need to put boots on the ground and see what it is. Because we haven't even got the operational side of it, that T&M side that we talked about. So what are you paying for all these light bulbs to be replaced? And how many times are you calling in your contractors or your mechanicals to come and keep the doors open? So we need that, and then we need to put boots on the ground. So we're not there. We're not there yet. We're just starting. This is one of the milestones to say, are you good with us to go forward to the next stage of putting boots on the ground?
And for what you're saying, so $300,000 a year in savings over 20 years is $6 million, right? Right, $6 million project. And we can base it off just that. But what we're seeing, I mean, how many more have we done that we show the owner, if you have somebody to contribute, example would be a district, they had $2 million to contribute out of a taking that $2 million and replacing their old steam boiler. That steam boiler replacement is a long payback, but they're funding that with the project. There's another $40,000 a year in savings by doing that steam project. So that actually gives you another $800,000 more, 400,000 over 20, another $800,000 more of an energy bond you can take. So we just picked up another 40,000 because the district contributed money.
Right.
So we can go through all that too, once we go through that.
What Traverse City did, and the reason that project is so big, is they took all their HVAC as well as all the energy stuff out of their bond and put it in our lab. They put all the additions, like if they did an addition, that's on the construction manager side, and they gave us all the HVAC stuff. So if they were putting new equipment in or any type of equipment, they gave it to us because number one, they get the performance guarantee, which they don't have on the bond side. Number two, we get all the savings. Number three, they get it done in 2 years as opposed to
6 or 8 or whatever.
Yeah. So we're leveraging that. And what the other thing that he's doing and is that a little bit different than, and we're presenting on this next week at the conference. So Dr. Van Wagner is presenting as well as Doug Menster from Trenton at the superintendent's conference, is he's paying bond up front, using bond money up front, and then going to leverage his, if we still need a non-voted bond, going to leverage that about halfway through our project to see if they still need more money because he wants to build something else, a secret project. So we'll see how that turns out. But so there's other ways to do. We'll be talking about that next week at the conference. So anyway, but thank you for listening.
I just have a comment that I see big benefits for our district with our older buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it could be to our advantage. So thank you.
Yeah, and if you all have our card, and I think I might have shared with you all of the references, and we have a lot of local references as well as all across the state. So you can share them, we don't, or Troon or PFM as well. We don't have that reference at all, so feel free to share those.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, we have the MTSS presentation.
If I may, I want to start off to say, and I wanted to bring them up to speak with you today as MTSS sits at the center of almost everything that we do. And there's been some conversation about a Title I audit where they come in and look at what's doing. That's all centered around the obligation that we have to provide MTSS within our school district. So I want to make sure that you knew the things that we were doing and the things we were improving upon, how we're implementing and folding in Power School as well as Navigate 360. All the mental health services that are happening within the school district are huge, which are partnerships as well. We just have a lot to share. We want to make sure we get that off to you. If you remember correctly, 2 years ago, we had our 31A audit, which also, 31A and Title I fold into each other. And that's how we ended up with the mandate of the high school, making sure we had some of those high school programs in place and for the betterment of that. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to Megan and Kevin and Dr. Dolmage as well, because we've got some pretty wonderful things happening, and it should answer some of those questions that you might have around this kind of support that we put in place.
Congratulations to those of you who are just elected. I know that's an exciting time, my own experience. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about our student support systems in MTSS. And really our components of it are so braided in with the teaching and learning department. Student services is working hand in hand because there's two sides of MTSS, and that's that behavioral mental health part and the academic component. And this is Mr. Knobloch. I'm not sure if all of you know him, but he's this
Supervisor of Student Services. So I work hand in hand with Dr. Papazzi.
This isn't working. No. Yes, it is. There we go. Oh, well. Okay. So do you want to start or you want me to? Okay. Well, I gotta put my glasses on for this. All right. So what is MTSS? So MTSS is a multi-tiered system of support, and it touches all of our students across the district, from our babies all the way up to our adult learners. And we're basically looking at tier three to four tiers that we work with. The tier one is universal support. So that's for everybody. It's the bottom layer of the cake. Tier two is more targeted interventions. And like I said, this has to do with academic and behavioral mental health components. Tier three is where we go into a more intensive, individualized intervention, roughly about 5% of students. And if you think of it as the cake, that's your third layer. And tier four is our most intensive support. Typically, our students with special needs are in the tier four component, and that's about 1% to 2% of students. One thing we worked really hard with our staff this year, our MTSS teachers, our administrators, is the component of Child Find. And Child Find is a federal law, and it requires us as a district to really look at all of our students and determine if they need special education services. So that doesn't mean they have to be in a special reading group or have a behavior plan. It really means that we're looking at each individual child and asking ourselves as a school team or an administrative team, what does this student need to be the most successful in their academic journey?
I was just going to state that we're really fortunate in our district that we are able to support students all the way from birth to 26. So that's a really special thing that Hazel Park is able to provide to the community. And oftentimes when we think Child Find, that may be synonymous. Well, it's a child that's, maybe at birth or 1 or 2 years old where a parent is suspecting possibly a disability. We work with teams across the district where it could be a student, in their 8th grade year or 9th grade year where their team has come to the table to say, we're really seeing some struggling issues for this student, and we've tried A, B, C, and D. How are we able to move forward with that? How are we able to maybe determine that student is going to qualify for special education programming? So that Child Find procedure really encompasses all of our students at all levels.
One thing we like to tell our folks that we work with is don't rush, but don't wait. If you see something that's concerning, let's bring it to the table, let's have a conversation, and let's see how we can help every learner. Okay, so this kind of goes through more specifically each of the tiers. Like I said, we're thinking about this like a cake. Tier one is the bottom, then tier two, then tier three. And Child Find is when we're having some thought that this student might be a student with a disability or may need a 504 plan in place so that their medical or disabilities we can support them in whatever way would best suit them. And actually our federal government just came out with quite a few regulations that broaden the scope of 504 plans to things like eating disorders, anxiety disorders, asthmatics, irritable bowel syndrome. So we're really navigating that with our staff too, that those are students that we need to care for and support them in the school environment. And what does that look like? And usually those teams can get pretty big. Everything from a district nurse, the teachers, OT, PT, social work, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, you want to take the
Sure. Child Find is that federal requirement, as Dr. Papazian spoke about, established by our IDEA Act, so Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, to truly identify, locate, and evaluate all children with disabilities from birth through 21 years of age who are in need or may be in need of special education and related services.
So Michigan's kind of an outstanding state in that way. We serve students to age 26, and most, if not all, other states only go to 21. So that's why you'll see here that it is a federal law, and it says 21, but in Michigan, we work till the age of 26. So what are some triggers that we might ask our teams to look at if we think that things are happening for a student? So academic concerns may include, but aren't limited to, failing or declining grades, poor declining progress on standardized testing. Maybe the student has a 504 plan and the benefits are very little to their success in school. Behavioral, social, emotional concerns include things like signs of depression. Are they withdrawn? Do they have inattention or distraction? Are they suicidal? Do they have some mental illnesses? And many times we find out about these things because a parent brings in a note from a hospitalization for a student that has a mental health disorder or illness. And that's where child find is triggered, and we have to work with our team to provide supports. Discipline referrals, suspensions, expulsions, truancy is another thing. Major traumatic events that are happening in student lives may trigger child find, and outside behavioral diagnoses. Like we said, irritable bowel syndrome, things like that, anxiety, depression, eating disorders. There's a large scope of other disorders that we look at and try to truly ensure that everyone is trained to see these things, notice them, really keep their ears open, and listen to students and parents so that we know what's happening and how we can help. I'm really excited about that. You want to do this one?
Sure. Oh, yes. So this is our Child Find brochure that we have had the opportunity to really provide to our community. Much of this stems from our early on team that has helped kind of drive this process because we were seeing in our district really that need to help inform our families out there, especially with very young children at that birth, 2, 4, 6 months, to let them know that we're here for them. We're here to support. If you suspect that your child has a disability, that we can help you through that process. Our early on team worked very hard with partnering with the library here in the community, I believe Ferndale as well. They've also reached out to local pediatricians to make sure this information is posted and available in their offices because we want to make sure that our families have those resources in a variety of settings that they may be at so that they can have that team helping to support them if they suspect that their child has a disability.
So these jazzy flyers are taken all around to different child care centers, libraries, trampoline parks, play areas, all of those places. And our team has actually went and talked to local pediatricians about child find and what to do if they see a child that maybe they think has autism or hearing loss and what services our schools can give. Our Birth to 3 program here in Hazel Park, I'm not sure if you're all aware, but those teachers and ancillary staff actually go to homes and they work directly with families on how to best help their students. So we have that service available, and it's growing and growing and growing. It's not so much just babies and students, little ones with maybe physical impairments. It's also little ones that are having speech issues or true behavioral issues that parents struggle with day in and day out. And our teams are in their homes working with them directly and putting together plans for them.
We've had the opportunity to go out with our teams in the homes, and I can speak to that we truly have the best team out there working with our families. The compassion that they have, the excitement they have is truly astounding to just see them interact with these families. I'll use an example. I was able to work with one of our teachers supporting a student with some speech needs, and so that teacher was able to work with an AAC device. So that was provided through Oakland Schools. The child had a iPad that was assisting them through speech, and so that teacher was able to work with the parent, and it was really able to kind of step back and see that wonderful interaction that's helping to bridge that child and having a meaningful communication with that parent, and also letting that family know that we're here for them, that the team here is for them and to support them in this community.
So child find components. Our first and foremost job is public awareness, where our teams go out and make sure that everyone knows these services are available in Hazel Park to our students. We actually have lots of students come from neighboring communities that want to be in our programs for early on and for preschool, because our people are out there, they're talking, they're presenting, and truly it's learning through play. Our people are going into homes and working on sleeping and eating and all of those things from the very youngest students to the services they get with as adults. We do referrals, so that's at age birth through 3. There's like a hotline that they call. A pediatrician may call it and make a referral. It could be a child care provider, could be a parent themselves, and they're directed and sent through Oakland schools to us. So it's not like we can take Ferndale and Royal Oak children. Our Hazel Park kids stay in Hazel Park at the very youngest of ages. When we do have a concern, maybe it's a teacher concern for an elementary student or a social worker concern for a junior high student, we do go through a referral process, and we need our parents to consent to evaluate their students. So they are very involved from day one on how we go about evaluating and moving through that process. Right now we have 6 school psychologists, I believe 6. There is a major shortage of school psychologists, and they're the evaluators in this process. But I have to say that our school psychologists are really taking it on as a team and helping one another out to make sure that all of our kids are taken care of. And this is on our website, just a little picture with a tab that if a parent or guardian is concerned, they can click on, fill it out, and it goes directly to our child find coordinator, and they get back within 24 hours. So we're trying to make everything as accessible as possible so that students are getting the help and support that they need, or that parents are feeling more comforted in that maybe their child doesn't need quite as much, or maybe they need a little bit more. But we let the professionals really determine that. And Dr. Dahlman, I think I'm gonna do the latter half.
Okay.
So
So as you can see, what Dr. Papazian and Kevin explained, this is a really comprehensive system of student support, and that is accomplished through some essential components. So we have a flow chart that helps our teachers and our staff and our administrators understand how to go through this process, and that flow of what we need to do to support students is guided by 5 essential practices. The first one is team-based leadership. So as you can see, we just talked about a number of different professionals just involved in one component of it. There are a number of different levels in this process, and it starts with building teams, and there's also a district team. The district team really serves to support the organization, the processes and procedures, and all of the crossing of the T's and the dotting of the I's to make sure things and systems are in place. The building-based team is the boots on the ground team that works with the staff, that works with the students, that works with the teachers to ensure that all of our students' needs are met, and that it's always driven by data-based decision making. So the next one is really the tiered delivery system. I think Dr. Papazian really spoke to that we have a number of different tiers that students are supported by. One of the key components that I think is important to remember is that, as Dr. Papazian said, Tier 1 is everything. It's our core instruction. Tier 2 is a little bit more intensive. We could potentially have a student that has Tier 2 supports, and maybe they're not necessarily responding to all those students, so we would add another layer on. It does not mean that you take the Tier 2 supports away. It means you add supports on. So this is a really fluid process that we need to make sure is really monitored very closely and very tightly, and that is done through those team-based leadership and regular meetings that they have. Another really key component of this is the selection and implementation decision of the interventions. So we have some very specific
tools that we use that are research-based and evidence-based to support our students at tiers 2, 3, and in special education. Obviously, all the strategies that we are putting in place in our curriculum and our instruction on a daily basis are research and evidence-based. We also have specific interventions that are aligned to specific student needs that we utilize in the areas of reading and math. It's a little bit finicky tonight. The last two components are, one, the comprehensive screening and assessment system. So we utilize a number of sources of information about our students, and that starts with things such as the iReady assessment. That's one of the first assessments we do every year in the fall, and that is used as a benchmarking and a diagnostic tool. So in the fall, all of our students take that tool, that assessment, and based on the data, there's decisions about which students may need some additional support beyond the support that a classroom teacher would be using. We also have formative assessments and summative assessments that are embedded in our curriculum that a teacher would use on a regular basis to gather information. And then we have a number of tools that we use to progress monitor. Because one of the key components of this is that once we get our data, and we may determine that a student or students need additional support in reading and math, and we put those interventions in place, we need to monitor their progress. And we have specific tools and specific timelines for when we monitor that progress. Because the goal is, to the best of our ability, to find out what a student needs, provide intervention, and as soon as we can, move that student back into just a regular classroom instruction, because we want to build the high quality and have our students in the classroom at all times receiving those interventions. We do really support a push-in model, but sometimes we do need to pull students out depending on the need and the support and the intervention that they require. Then the very last thing I think we've talked about a couple of times is really the continuous data-based decision making. So when we assess in the fall, that's not the only time we assess. We assess all students through iReady 3 times a year. Our teachers on a regular basis are assessing students in all areas on a regular basis. And then if a student has an intervention, as I mentioned, we do progress monitoring at a more shorter time frame, usually about 8 to 10 weeks, to make sure that, one, the intervention is aligned, and two, the student is responding to that intervention. That, all of this work is really guided by, like I said, 2 different teams. We talked about this, but I really wanted to let you see who's on those teams, because it's important. When you think about an MTSS system of support, it is comprehensive, and essentially it's everybody in the system. So the district level team would be much of our central office team, the superintendent, myself, Dr. Pazian, Mr. Knobloch, the psychologists that we would have on there, our school resource officer, our nurse, our director of community schools. All of these people really have a piece in that puzzle, because it's not just the academics. It is the academics, it's the behavior. It could be a student that maybe we see is presenting with some academic struggles, but what we really find out when we analyze the information we have in that student is that they have chronic absenteeism. Well, that's a different piece that we have to solve to ensure that they're in the school. So in that way, you might have the director of community schools who is doing a lot of really strong work in making sure that students are getting to school, and we're monitoring those processes and procedures. And at the building level, our building administrator obviously is key on that, along with our school social worker, and the psychs should be up there. I don't know why that's missing, but our social worker and psych should be up there. Our general education, special education, EL, MTSS teachers, and also instructional coach and teacher consultants. They're not always part of, instructional coaches are not always part of those teams as they are monitoring and making decisions about students, but our coaches would be there when we're talking about some interventions or strategies that we might put in place to support. And a very exciting piece that we have this year that we are really looking for it to take off is a new tool through PowerSchool. It is a tool that's called Analytics and Insights, or Unified Insights. And this tool will allow us to really streamline and organize the work to support all of our students in Tier 1 instruction, as well as Tier 2 and Tier this system, number one, has a data dashboard. And in that data dashboard, essentially every bit of information that we have in the district on a student can be accessed in a profile. We have information about, all the information can be pulled in from the student information system. We upload a number of sources of assessment data. iReady's in there, MSTEP's in there, our EARLA will be in there. Any types of assessments like that that we have an ability to upload in terms of a spreadsheet will be in there. It will also capture any behavioral data, any attendance data in a nice dashboard on every student. In addition to that, this also has two other components that really help us with MTSS. And this is something that we have really looked forward to and needed for a long time, because what it does is it systematizes where all the information is. Currently, our schools do this anyways. They're tracking and they're organizing, but that's done through shared Google folders and spreadsheets. And sometimes that can get glut when you have a lot of spreadsheets with a lot of information in it, and you're pulling from multiple different sources of data. It becomes a little bit tricky. This system is going to allow us to have all the information about a student that would help us make good decisions. It will also allow us to do two different things. One is called student plans, and this student plan portal allows us to essentially develop or track plans that are supporting a specific student. In addition to that, we will have things such as attendance letters. I think maybe there's an awareness that as we get to a certain level of attendance, when it's 5 or 10 or 15 days, we send letters to families. Those letters can now be housed in this system. So if a student has a 5-day letter or a 10-day letter, and let's say they had that in 3rd grade and now it's 4th grade, when the teacher logs in or the building administrator logs in, they're going to see that maybe in 3rd grade we sent those same letters home. So it's going to track all that information. The final component of this is the intervention component. And what this allows us to do is every bit of tracking that our MTSS teachers are currently doing, because they track everything that they do in multiple spreadsheets, will now be housed in one system. So essentially, when a building principal, a special education teacher, a psychologist logs in to this system, they're going to have a plethora of data, sources of data on every student and individual students, because there's a student profile page. They will be able to access any sort of plan that you have in a student, whether it was an attendance plan, behavior plan. They will be able to access that. In addition to that, they will also see if the student has been involved in any interventions and how they responded to that. So we really are excited about this tool because it's going to help us make those decisions faster and in a way that really gives access to everybody who needs to see it. So we are pretty excited about that tool, and that's really going to, again, systematize and help that work move forward. So our goal here tonight was really to just give you an overview. This is a really intensive process. We have a pretty significant handbook that guides this work, but our goal was to give you the big components and help you see all the things that we're doing to support students in our tiered system of support in both academics and non-academics. What questions might you have for us?
I have one. So, I'm going to say it wrong. Papazian, thank you. You said there was a form to fill out online, and it goes to the Child Find Coordinator. Who is that in our district?
That goes right to Jennifer Durawi. She is our early on teacher that she sends it out to whoever else needs it. So we oversee it. We are just watching that spreadsheet, watching those come in. But that teacher's the one that will say, this is for a psychologist, this is a speech concern, this is a physical therapy concern.
Okay. And then can we get this presentation emailed to us because our TV went out over here?
Sure. It's actually on my list of things that I just wrote down over here, is
Okay.
making sure we upload it and get it to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, good job.
I have a quick question. Understanding, it used to be that the special ed student, you could only service them if they were in Oakland County. Is that still true?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we're talking about birth to 3, we keep them in the community. So we do
Hazel
not
Park.
take, we don't take students from out neighboring districts.
That's good to know.
Anything 3 and above, once they go into that special ed continuum, then we have to have a 105C sign. That's the agreement with the outside of the county district that they will pay for those services.
I have a question. Do you often get reluctance for that?
You can't question, excuse me, Ian, you have to wait. You can't question from the audience, I'm sorry. Anybody else?
I do have a question about the Power School aspect of it. Maybe not to the same degree, but is there any mechanism in that specific Power School application that would allow families or caregivers to also have some of that information? Access to attendance letters, any interventions that are taking place. I know one of the main benefits of Power School was that there was going to be sort of this like at your fingertips repository of children's information and things like that. And I don't know that we're seeing that to the extent that it was maybe hyped to begin with. And I'm just thinking if, there are parents at the beyond 3-year-old level that may not have a lot of constant communication with the school or really understand what's happening in the classroom, or like whether or not their children are struggling until conferences, this may give them sort of a heads up or guide some of those discussions, ask the right questions to know if they may need to look for eligibility or evaluation or anything like that. Is there a plan to get some of that Power School data out as well as in?
I'll take that. I think that's a really good conversation to have. I'm not sure that I've seen that side of it as far as the testing data and stuff. My guess would be that we should never say no, right? So I know that we're working on a nursing component, and that should be live too, so that you could log in and see the visits down to the office and see all the other things that are in there as well. So there's a module we're doing with that. This side of it, I don't know, but I can't imagine that it would not do that, because they're adding pieces on it all the time. And so that's a really good question for us to circle back with our team on. We meet Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 o'clock.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, Ms. Beaton, I think it would be really valuable for parents too, because we get a lot of requests for data and information to provide therapists and pediatricians, and that would certainly link parents to just getting that quickly, sending it, online. That might make things easier. So I hope that does come to fruition.
Well, I think it might be helpful for it to go outwards as well. I'm thinking specifically of some of those tier 2 and 3 interventions that may be taking place seamlessly. And if there's a parent that doesn't know that there's been sort of this, ping for a tier 2, it may not be to the point of evaluation or where they're needing that intensive level. But especially for some of the younger children, that may seem like a seamless part of their day, but they're not able to communicate that outward themselves. And there's not a lot of ability to communicate sort of one-on-one if you don't even know to ask the question, and that may just prompt some of the questions, is sort of what my thought is.
I do know one of the components of just getting up and running does have a parent portal. It's called Behavior Support, and it allows families to log into a parent portal. You're just getting up and running using it, and you will be able to log into that. But as that mentioned, our school is pretty comprehensive, and as they are adding things on, you may have the ability to do some level of access. At this time, in the data and analytics which we talked about, I have not seen it. But again, we'll follow up. And
I want to circle back around one piece, though, is that they are not supposed to be in tier 2 and tier 3 without parent permission and forms. So that's all part of the piece that we have, is that parents are to be invited to initial meetings that are taking place before you're even in the MTSS process, the problem-solving meetings. That has been our process for 10 years to make sure that the people are in there, and that each building has their own weekly meeting that they're supposed to be talking about students. And it rotates through special ed, 504, behavior, and then others, that it rotates on a weekly basis that they're having those conversations. Sometimes staffing limits us, especially given the loss of psychologists, everywhere. But, I have to say, it continues to improve year after year.
Just kind of a little bit of a side, after you mentioned the Title I concept review, and that really is very obviously is what we pay our MTSS teachers for. So that's one of the key components of that. And have spent time with Ruby, with Kazian, with all of the curriculum coordinators, with the instructional coaches and everyone, gathering the data. And I have to tell you, we went through the rubric of what we need to do, and there are so many things in place in this district that I felt really positive as I was filling out that rubric, talking about, we have this piece of evidence, we have that piece of evidence, we have this in place, and that in place. And that's really a testament to all the people in the system and how much they're working, a strong coordination between student services and teaching and learning and all the competence pieces that are going on in the district to really support our students and have a really strong tiered system of support.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. So moving on, it's public comment. Anybody wishing to speak? You need to state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. I'm not going to read the big thing. I'm just going to ask to not direct comments to specific people and to be respectful and to do your 3 minutes. Oh, yes, and if you, there is one. I didn't know I had one. Sorry. You can give it to me after.
Suhambo, East Hayes, Hazel Park, Michigan. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
This board is here to create policy, and I'm just kind of more of a policy person. So I don't know if it's in policies, it might be something you might want to look at. We have administrators that work long days, and then we see them a lot in the after-school events. And I don't know if there's anything in policy, but I think that if we pay an administrator, we should pay all administrators to work the after-school events because they do put a lot of time in, and we have a lot of great staff. And it's basically what I have. I want to say congratulations to the ones that were just elected and re-elected, and I look forward to seeing you work together as a board. Thank you.
And we have Ian Lloyd. Mr. Lloyd.
Hi, greetings, Ian Lloyd. We're excited. I'm hearing feedback from a lot of the faculty. I was a former faculty. We're just so excited that we got new energy on the board, new ideas. I wanted to just let you know, as a behavior expert and social worker, I went to work and worked here for about 5 years in the union. And I knew the district needed, for the teachers and the children, they needed social work intervention. There are some things that we've seen in Hazel Park that got brought here, never before. We didn't encounter this type of rough, abrasive experiences at the podium. Little to no parent support. Your teachers are saturated with special ed kids that are not identified prior to their arrival. And then you put them through that MTSS, you delay their identification. Teachers are giving feedback because I was in the district on RTI teams. Look at you. We spent all that time on train and the presentation. None of you guys will give me 4 minutes. I would like 1 more minute. May I have it? Okay. I think there's some softening up for this board to interact with each other because Zig Ziglar said the staff and the children cannot overcome the constraints of leadership. Poor leadership is going to cripple your teaching, faculty, students. I'd like to see more Michigan grads, Wolverines. You can't do that when 3/4 of the district is receiving MTSS. It's not a healthy district. It's disproportionate in the number of disabilities that you have in our populace that our teachers are trying to use behavior plans on and run different things without the adequate support of school psychology or social work. And there's plenty of workers available. There's plenty of ones that actually have the degree titles. When they get in and they're seasoned and they know what they're doing, I find that the constraints of leadership has actually gotten in the way of that family getting the support they need. One of my private practice kids hit their head because he didn't have enough support. And they put him right back with no more support. And that parent called me up, and I was an intermediary between this district and that parent. And I got him I was the one who got that child back into the school district. And he's attending school with accommodations. And what I found was the district was abrasive and they knew what to say and what not to say to give more resources, and they erred on the side of no more resources. I believe that needs to change for your teachers to have morale. Yes. To have morale. And I think this board now is the best board that we've ever collected in here. Each of you have been given the opportunity to change it. None of you attended school with an open border, I bet. These teachers cannot continue to do that. You need to focus those resources on residents of Hazel Park, perform the minimal committees that you have available, like the open border one, or the sex act.
Ian?
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else, so we'll move on to new business, which is our calendar dates and times.
This is for informational only, and we're not able to discuss. It's not for approval.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I didn't want to approve it tonight.
Yes. So we wanted to make sure that we got draft dates out to you. We couldn't ask you to approve it tonight because we really don't know the times that you would like to meet. So we want to make sure that you give us some guidance on that. And remember, board workshops are always suggested. Those will happen if we have the topics to go along with them. But we don't even know if this board wants to continue with the committee of the whole. So if you can take it back and we can put this on conversation for committee of the whole. But think about what times you want the meetings so that we make sure that we can get this out to everybody for the February timeframe.
All right, great, thank you. Next is Michigan Association of School Board Recognition Month resolution.
I make a motion to approve the Michigan Association of School Board School Resolution as presented.
Support. May I comment? Thank you. It's really important, right, that we know we could wait to the end of the month, but we wanted to get that message out there about celebrating our school board and our school board members. It is very key, as you heard one of our speakers talk, leadership is at the top. And having a good school board that has good relations and works together is a key leadership that funnels on down from the superintendent to the cabinet to the teachers. And so collaboration and working together is key. And so we celebrate our school board members. You put a lot of time and effort into a job that can be very contentious and very stressful. So thank you for all you do. And we look forward to a little more celebration at the regular meeting, but we wanted to get this resolution through and out there now so that we can communicate this month.
Would you like me to read it? Anybody else want to read it? We all got a copy.
Is it necessary for us to read it?
Well, when you do a resolution, you should read the resolution into the record. Would you like me to read it?
Want to read it? Secretary,
I'll read it.
Okay, Mr. Secretary.
Local School Board Recognition Month for January 2025, whereas providing for the education of the Michigan's school-aged children is a fundamental duty of state government, as stated in the Article 8, Section 2 of the Michigan Constitution of 1963, and whereas the education of our youth is the foundation upon which the economic, social, and intellectual capital of our state is built, and whereas Hazel Park School Board plays an important and vital role in a representative democracy, and decisions made by local boards of education directly influence instruction in the Michigan public schools, and whereas the Hazel Park board members contribute hundreds of hours each year leading their districts, whether it is by deliberating important decisions about curriculum, adopting policies, hiring top-notch personnel and administrators, listening to staff, parent, and student concerns, or recognizing outstanding programs. Board members always keep their eyes on the goal of the student achievement, and whereas these decisions affect the present and future lives of children and also set direction to prepare all students to be competitive in local, state, national, and global knowledge, economic, and whereas local board members are exceptional people who tackle the enormous job of governing school districts and demonstrate to the students they serve the high character of the civic duty and responsibility that all citizens should engage. And whereas Hazel Park School Board Member Recognition Month provides an opportunity to build stronger relationships between the thousands of women and men who champion the cause of public education as board members, their schools, and the communities they serve. Now therefore be it resolved that the Hazel Park community recognizes contributions of the Hazel Park Board of Education to the academic behavior and mental health of public students, and express its sincerest appreciation to our board members for their focus on well-being and achievement of children throughout our district. And be it finally resolved that the Hazel Park School Board of Education declares January 25th or January 2025 as Local School Board Member Recognition Month, and encourages the Hazel Park staff to appropriately recognize our dedicated school board members.
It's an action item.
Yep. Somebody motion to accept the resolution.
I did already.
Support?
Heidi already did and I supported.
Pardon me?
Heidi already did
I
and I
already did.
Oh, you
supported.
did?
I did.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you. It's getting cold in here. I'm like, whoa. Let's see. Review Article 1C, Section 4, Board Ethics and Operating Principles.
This would be your Board of Operating Principles book that you guys have done every year and made adjustments to as appropriate.
I make a motion to table item C, review article, section 4, board ethics and protocols for board members to review for committee of the whole and vote on at a regular meeting.
Second, support.
Any discussion about tabling, so you can look it over and bring questions? No discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And we'll table it until the next meeting. Review Article 6, Finance, Section 8, Credit Cards.
I make a motion to approve Article 6, Finance, Section 8, District Credit Cards.
Or
Any discussion?
I do. I was just kind of curious why there's the wording, the balance including applicable interest shall be paid within no more than 60 days of the initial invoice statement date. Why is it 60 days? Why aren't we paying that on Why do we have 60 days to pay it?
That's what's in the policies that were adopted, and certainly that's something that we can look at. I don't know that we do 60 days. I think they've all been paid promptly. I've been reviewing bills now for the last several months on everyone that comes in, and they appear to be paid off in a timely manner.
Okay, can we change the wording?
Well, it's a policy, so you'd have to do it in committee of the
policy
whole.
meeting?
Yep, and then committee of the whole, and then bring it for 2 readings to the board.
Okay.
Okay, that's all the discussion? Any other discussion? All in favor?
We're in favor of.
Wait, I'm like, this is,
I made the
Okay.
motion to approve it.
the attachments confuse me because
We
there's
can't
two, the attachments say something different than D. D is credit card finances,
Okay,
right? Did I confuse? Because underneath, it says, right underneath finance section credit cards, it says board memo, Board of Education, Article 1C, Section 4, board ethics. But it's finances that we're voting on. You made the motion correct. Do I have everybody confused now?
Yes.
We're making
Sewer
the
They
vote.
voted the credit card for the action item on the policy that we have to approve every year.
Okay, so all in favor?
see where it says.
Did they vote? They didn't vote.
You said this is in our bylaws, right?
It's in our policy.
It's in your policies, yes, the bylaws, the section 1 for board is in the finance policy. Yes.
Okay.
It's in section 6, finance,
Yep.
section 8 of that.
So the motion's been made by Heidi, seconded by,
By Monica,
So
and
we
it's ready
Monica.
for voting.
and we're ready for voting.
Voting. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry, I messed that one up. Board training is next.
I make a motion to approve board training as presented.
Support.
Any discussion? No discussion?
Yeah, I have something, sorry. It's really pertaining to me, though. Did I sign up for all the open schools things?
I thought we signed up everybody for the whole year.
That was for the whole last year, wasn't it?
Oh, okay.
It was-
Yeah, but the thing is, I can't register anybody until I get the email that says the registration's been open.
Okay,
So I just double check with everybody to make sure that you're also able to attend before I actually.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of approving the board training, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say no. Second public comment, anybody wishing to speak second public comment? Seeing nobody, okay. Then we go to, as a board member comments?
Yes.
Board member comments and administration comments. So I'm going to start with Debbie.
Welcome to all the new board members. I'm looking forward to an exciting year. Hope everybody had a happy New Year and Merry Christmas. And that's it. I'm not used to having the meeting right off the bat. So.
I'll go next.
Oh, okay, go ahead,
What
Derek.
the heck? I just want to say thank you to everybody on the board. It's such a warm feeling that I got from everyone from having dinner last month to now. I mean, it seems like I've been on the board for years already. I do want to say thank you to the public for their support and my family for their support. I hope they're watching. And for other people out there that they know who they are, that have supported me, and my close friends. Also, I want to make mention that, it's wonderful that we have a lot of great discussion, and tonight I thought was a really good meeting to have that discussion. We're not all going to agree. We're not going to all, but I was told by somebody dear to me, who was a principal at the junior high, he said, as long as you vote by your heart and what's in your heart and what is right for kids, you're doing the right thing. And I think that all of us has that in us, and I think that's what we all want. We might have different opinions, and I no way ever want to try, because of my years here and, the knowledge that I do have, it's going to be a hindrance at times because it seems like I'm throwing people under the bus, and I'm not. I don't ever mean to do that. You know, it's just because I know that we had an energy bond, or I know that, you know, what the Hazel Park Holiday Baskets has done in the past, because I was on the committee for 10, 15 years. So please don't ever be offended by what I say. It's not personal. I'm just trying to let everybody know the history of what Hazel Park is. And I guess that's the burden of being here since, 1982? You know, I'm an old guy, I guess. But I do appreciate everyone here, and thank you so much. And thank you for the public for being here.
Thank you for Trustee Fox. I get to say the word trustee to Darren. Yay. April, you want to go next?
I won't say much because I'll start coughing again and it's going to get weird. But welcome back to all of the staff and students, and specifically welcome to Darren and Nate. And I look forward to a wonderful year.
Thank you. Heidi?
I hope everybody had a restful holiday and Happy New Year. I got something in the mail today from MASB for the Winter Institution. It looks like it's all online. I encourage people to take classes. They can be very informative. And that's it. I'll see you next Monday.
Nathan?
Yeah. Thanks for the warm welcome, everybody. I'm looking forward to working together for the years to come and for the kids. You know, I started getting the blasts, the emails, and the phone calls from all the schools now, and I'm not used to that, but it's exciting. I like it. It's fun to read what's going on around the district, and I appreciate that, and it helped me get me in the mindset like, you know, this is everybody. It's the whole district. That's what we're here for. So I'm looking forward to working with everybody.
Monica?
I feel like everybody mostly said what I had to say, but Happy New Year. I do want to acknowledge that our varsity girls did play at Little Caesars State. They unfortunately lost, but I think it's really cool that they got to go there and play. So congratulations to them for going out there. And welcome to you both. And I look forward to seeing how this year goes.
Dr. Kirby?
Yes. So welcome back. It was a really good day, a busy day, I think, for all of us. We have a lot of new families, and we should take a little moment to remember, which maybe community schools is the next good presentation for here, to hear about so many families in need. We saw many families come in today with significant needs, coming into our community where other community members are loving them and caring for them. Because of what they've lost. We also recently lost a family member in the community, lost their home. She's a high school student to fire. And so we have a lot of situations going on like that. So reach out to your neighbors, give when you can, and remember somebody right next door might need some of that support. It was a nice meeting. Welcome. Congratulations to your new offices and congratulations on the board. I'm excited for another year of moving Hazel Park forward, and I look forward to some fantastic leadership and collaboration.
Okay, that's me. I want to just assure the community of my ability to be their president. We represent the people up here, and I represent them. And it wasn't a 7-0 vote. I would like people to know a little of my background, that I was a home-based teacher. I've been in many, many houses in Hazel Park. I was the head of the Student Success Committee at the high school when they were doing national accreditation. I was a community school representative, helping people with non-academic needs. Served on Hazel Park Youth Assistance for 25 years. Started the senior all-night party. It goes on and on and on. I think that if I don't stand up for myself, if you don't stand up for yourself, you don't have many that will stand up for you. And I think the community needs to know my background, that I am very dedicated to the kids in Hazel Park. I'm very dedicated to this community. I've been a Brownie leader. I've done the senior all-night parade. It goes on and on. I have a passion for children. I have a passion for education. and I will do my best job that I can do up here to serve the children of Hazel Park. Always have, always will. I wrote this that I'm going to read. A new year brings a fresh start. Tonight we welcome 3 new board members, Darren Fox, Nathan Becker, and April Beaton. Even though April has been serving since May due to being appointed, I count her as being a new, officially elected by the citizens, and welcome Heidi back in the re-election to serve another 4 years. Unifying the board of 7 is not an easy feat. It certainly cannot be accomplished by requesting the governor to remove board members, communicating very little or not at all with some board members, or by outright refusing to appoint fellow board members to officer positions. I would be greatly appreciative of your thoughts and ideas in regards to being a board supportive of each other. My first thought in building a respectful, collaborative team to keep us functioning positively for our students, staff, and community is to be a good communicator. This is one of the attributes of a good leader. Poor communication creates rumors, mistrust, conflict, ineffective collaboration, and favoritism. I would appreciate having your address and phone number on paper I'm passing to help me in communicating with you. At the end of our meeting on December 16th, I explained my reasons for voting no for not spending money. I will probably continue with that. I'm just repeating it here for those who didn't hear. Our current financial status is still in limbo. Our auditors, after 9 years, quit. Our assistant superintendent of business operations resigned in September, and today we still do not have an audit or current budget. We missed the November 1st deadline to file the audit with the state, so they withheld funds, resulting in the board having to borrow $12 million plus interest. I'm sharing this as new board members may not be aware of this policy. The board policy reads, the board holds a position of public trust and accountability, requiring it to be good stewards of funds received by the district and to manage and operate the district in an efficient and effective manner. The superintendent shall oversee financial processes, procedures, and internal controls to ensure the proper accounting of all district funds received and expended. Fiduciary oversight was inadequate. As the board, we cannot and we should not ignore the budgetary concerns facing the district. We should not be fiscally irresponsible. I know some people right now are not liking what I said. However, I'm an advocate for procedures, following bylaws and policy. By doing so, it builds trust and it keeps order. We have a jam-packed rest of the year. We have the Promise Zone dinner, the fall resource fair, not the fall, it's the resource fair coming up this spring. We have concerts, we have youth assistance recognition, we have sporting events, we have our drama, James and the Giant Peach, graduation, and so much more. There's many, many things to be positive about with our schools. The presentation on MTSS tonight, the details was fantastic, absolutely fantastic, to know that we're reaching out and looking for those children that need special help. The presentation was good, and I thank you for electing me as president. I thank everybody for coming out tonight, and welcome back, and Happy New Year. So, motion to adjourn.
Oops. Can I add something to the next agenda? I'd like a follow-up on Camp Hazelwood, the maintenance. Is that position still vacant? Is the house empty? Are we going to hire somebody? And if so, when?
Put it on the agenda for.
Thank you.
Now, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second, support.